Welcome to the Human Resources for Small Business podcast, presented by Xenium HR. I'm your host, Brandon Laws. Whether you're an HR professional or a small business leader, each episode of this podcast is designed to bring you the latest in technical HR and leadership at your convenience. More content is available on our website at www.xeniumhr.com. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey, welcome to the podcast. I apologize, I missed a week. Things have been a little crazy for me, and I've had the content. I just did not produce and publish an episode last week, so I apologize for that, but we have a lot of good stuff coming. I wanted to do a couple housekeeping items, so first and foremost, I'm going to put a link up to this in the show notes, but we just published, and this is part of what I was working on while I failed to put an episode out last week. I worked on a time management and delegation web course. You can purchase that for $29, but I'm actually going to throw in a promo code that'll get you 10% off the purchase. And what's great about this web course, not only will you learn about time management and how to delegate better, but you will have this on demand and forever. So you purchase one time, you get this forever. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing is we do a survey for this podcast, and I drew a couple names this time. I gave away a couple books, and I wanted to congratulate Tammy, who's actually in my local area, in the Portland area, and then Silver, who I believe is in like the Wisconsin area. But thank you both for listening. Thank you both for the feedback. Of course, we welcome survey responses, and we welcome reviews on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. So please go do that. I read every single one of those reviews personally, and if I have a chance to, I definitely respond to them as well. And I, of course, appreciate anybody who reaches out to me on LinkedIn. I always make it a point to respond. I even love when some of you reach out to me on Instagram. My account is unlocked, so it's not private, and so you can get to know me there. You're welcome to direct message me there as well. I totally make myself available to all my listeners, and appreciate the connection. It's we've got such a great community that we built on this podcast, and I'm going to keep it going for you guys. Okay, so on to today's episode. I have a really, really fun guest. This one was special for me. His name is Travis Hansen. He has co-founded a couple companies, but more importantly, from my perspective, he is actually a former NBA player. He was drafted in 2003, which was infamously known as the draft where LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony were drafted, and several other big name players. So he was drafted in that draft class, I think late in the first round, maybe early second round. Played professional basketball in the NBA for a year or two, I believe, then went overseas to the European League. And then after that, for a lot of these professional athletes, they got to figure out, what's next? Well, for Travis, he ended up co-founding a couple companies. And so this podcast is all about how he used his professional basketball playing days and the experience he had on, championship level teams and other teams who maybe weren't as successful, and just the variation of culture and leadership that they experience, with all the teams and coaches he's played for. And so when he created his companies, he had a vision for what kind of culture he wanted and what kind of people he wanted to bring in and what kind of values they were going to share. So this podcast is all about that. It's a storytelling based podcast where you really get an insight into how Travis looked at business and how he wanted to shape the future. And I think the future for Travis is going to be bright. I think he'll probably struggle along the way and have some big wins along the way, but he knows where he wants to end up. And that's what's fascinating to me. and about company culture, because it's constantly evolving as you bring in new people, new diverse ideas, and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think you're going to enjoy this podcast. I know I did. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, and let us know what you thought about this episode. We got more good stuff coming to you. Enjoy the episode. Talk to you next week. Hey, Travis, so great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so you have quite the background. I've read through all your history, but you got to share that with the listeners. What kind of background do you have? It's pretty interesting.
No, I'm just an average guy, average
No, you're not.
Utah boy. But I appreciate that. I hope I've done something with my life and not played too many video games or gotten too much trouble. I was lucky enough to have a great mom and dad. Taught me a lot of different things. In 8th grade, my dad, I was playing baseball, football, and basketball, and he said, you could be good at all these sports, you could be great at one. And you're 6'5", you're skinny, one bad tackle, and you're probably going to end up in a stretcher.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you play basketball? And so I was convinced that I was kind of given that body for basketball. I started to train. I started to really focus. Kind of funny that you get whatever you focus on. I let out any distractions, didn't go to parties, woke up at 6 a.m. and walked to my church through the snow, fall, whatever season. And
Wow.
typically it was by myself. It was really hard to find someone to practice with a rebound for you. And took my boom box back in the day. Snap Power was my go-to song. And I played and practiced and trained my body to do it the same way every time. And got lucky enough to play in high school and then play at Brigham Young University. Won a lot of games. We were 44-1 at home while I was there. Got drafted in the NBA for the Atlanta Hawks. Played with Jason Terry, Sharif Abdurrahim, Theo Ratliff, Rasheed Wallace, Steven Jackson. Terry Stotts was our coach, who's now the coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. And then
that's where I'm at, is Portland. Portland's my team.
Love Portland. Coach Stotts is just a great man, a great coach. And so I've been lucky enough to have a lot of mentors, a lot of good experiences, lucky enough that I didn't quit, lucky enough to have a great dad who helped me get rid of distractions and really focus on something. And lucky enough that, a lot of things have to line up in order for you to kind of, especially make the NBA. You can't get injured. Politically, you got to get along with the coaches, got to get along with the team, right place, right time. And then I was able to play for Real Madrid in Madrid, Spain. Luka Doncic who's one of the best players in the NBA right now. He was 16 at the time on our club.
Incredible.
Ettore Messina, who's Popovich's first assistant, he was our head coach. And I played in Russia for 5 years before Spain. And my head coach was David Blatt, who coached the Cavs. LeBron may have had a role in firing him. But,
you think?
Yeah. But just fun times. Can't believe made the NBA. There's guys that are way better than me, way more athletic. But, sometimes if you work hard enough, good things happen, great things happen, and sometimes incredible things happen.
Well, I'm sure, like, in your playing days, even high school to college to the NBA and even overseas when you're playing Real Madrid, like, you've developed some really good habits, and you probably learned something about what teamwork's all about and what culture's all about, because these teams they have these different cultures within them, right? So you probably use that and translate it into the business world when you're done playing, right? What did you learn from that experience?
The championship teams are really, really difficult to build. It's a lot more art than science. Every substitution, you may have 5 guys on the field or on the court, and magic's happening. They're playing really well together, and one sub or one change can really throw a wrench in that. And so you have to have the bench be able to fit right into. It's who you recruit. It's how you coach. Jocko Willich has a great book called Extreme Ownership. He talks about there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. I'm a big believer in that leadership starts at the top and it trickles down. And it's really, sadly, hard to find incredible, morally ethical, loving, great leaders. And I was lucky enough to probably play for 10 coaches, and probably three of them were like incredible. 5 were great, and there was a couple that were just okay. And so championship teams, I think they're built, but it all starts with the leader, and that's why there's very few of them, because leadership is such a critical role.
So you started a few businesses, and I'm curious, like from your playing days, you said you played for about 10 coaches, 3 of them amazing, probably great role models. What have you taken from them that now you use as a CEO and business leader, that where you have people who, report to you and you're responsible for at the end of the day?
Man, it's hard to nail down every little variable and attribute and characteristic that you've learned throughout the years. Every single person's different that you've learned from, but I think business is one of the most charitable things you can do if you do it the right way. Now, we're still learning what the right way is, but it means you develop a culture where, whether it's in sports or business, where people feel needed, they feel wanted, they feel respected, they have autonomy, they at least like who they work with, and your families, you love them, right? You're supposed to love every one of your family members, but sometimes you don't like them. Sometimes a Sunday dinner and someone starts talking about some conspiracy or Donald Trump, you're like, oh gosh, kill me now. What's going on? But at work, you like your employees. That's why you hired them.
Yeah.
You believed in them, that they could match and give you the skills they needed. But sometimes you love them. Like sometimes they're so good and they work so hard, and your visions are aligned, and you want the same thing, that you love these people and you want to do whatever you can to help them. And I think business, honestly, it could be the most charitable thing if you do it the right way.
Let's go back in time a little bit. So you're done playing basketball. What led you to the business world? Did you have a business idea? Did you have an opportunity to jump into business? Like, what was it? Did you have an interest in it?
I never knew what I wanted to do. Even basketball, right? I was kind of figuring out along the way. I was always jealous of the kids that turned 17 and they automatically knew they wanted to be a dentist. And you're like, dang, man. But I never knew. And so I thought about it a lot playing basketball. You travel a lot. You're on airplanes a lot. You're in hotels a lot. And you have time to think. And so I thought, man, what am I going to do when I'm done? Because in sports, NFL's stands for not for long. You know that your career is going to be short. No one usually plays past 40, especially in the NBA. And so I had a chance meeting with a guy named Blake Roney. Blake Roney is an incredible friend. He's the CEO and founder of Nu Skin. Nu Skin's probably about $2 billion company here in Provo that has been super successful, especially in Asia. And so I had a chance meeting with him. He called me and said, hey, I heard you'd started a foundation in Russia. We'd love to help. Went to his office. Secretary said, Blake's waiting for you. Go in. Walked into this 20th floor of this amazing building, and he's not there. I go back out to the secretary and I say, Blake's not there. And she says, yes, he is. You have to find him. I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is a billionaire, right? And he's hiding. This is my type of guy. But I've never met him before, but I like him already. I go in there, looking around, Blake, Balake. And he's hiding under his desk, laughing, pulls out his laptop. We start watching all these funny videos, and he's like, nice to meet you. Loved playing basketball with you. And immediately, genuine, friendly, you felt comfortable, and you knew you could trust this guy. And so we started to talk, and he said, love to help your foundation. Here's how we're going to help. And what are you going to do with your life? And so not only did he help support me and my wife and our dream of helping people in Russia, but immediately he, didn't put down his phone. He didn't have any distractions, looked me in the eye and said, I'm here for you. There's no one more important in this room. How can I help you? Which is probably the greatest thing anyone can do is, for anybody, is to mentor them. And he's had all these great life experiences and said, do you want to coach? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And I said, well, I've been traveling, for 10 years. Every other week I was gone for my family. I really want to be a good dad and be a good husband. I don't really want to be away. And he said, well, coaching starts, especially in college, when kids get out of class at 3 or 4. And that's exactly when your kids get out of school. So probably, want to be there. And we started breaking down, what this career meant to my lifestyle. And I was like, man, that's really interesting. And he said, he's the first one that ever told me, I think building a business could be the most charitable thing you can do if you do it the right way. Yeah. And that shocked me. and it like took me in a whole nother world of, oh, I want to do that. And that was my first intro into what I wanted to do with my life.
I love that story. It sounds like you've had some really good people around you too, like that have really helped push you, nudge you, probably confirm what you're already thinking. Like, how was it? Just like by happenstance you're around some great people, or I mean, you sound like a great person, so you're probably attracting some of these people. Like, what? How did it kind of all fall together for you?
Your mentors are hard to find, right? And you
Yeah,
gotta
they are.
you gotta search them out, and especially someone that's genuine that just really wants to help you, that doesn't want anything from you. But Blake has a great saying. He speaks to youth a lot with his civic and church callings, and he says to them, especially the young women, dream and write down in a notepad what you want your life to be like. Do you want a white picket fence? Do you want a 2,000 square foot house, 4,000 square foot house? Do you want a lot of grass? Where do you want to live? And what's your husband like? Does he look your dad in the eyes when he first meets him? Is he
Mm.
confident? Does he treat you well? Do you go to church? Do you travel? What kind of career do you have? How many kids are you going to have? And it's interesting how powerful the imagination is and how powerful visions are. And that if you'll write them down and tweak them and keep working on them, that you're actually planning your future. And I think that alone will attract the type of person that you want. There's something amazing about goals, that a goal not written down is only a wish. But as soon as you write it down, it's just so powerful mentally, physically, emotionally. You start focusing on that goal. And if you write it down, you put it on your bathroom door and put it on your bedroom door. And then if you start to set traps by telling people, hey, I'm going to do this. I wanted to start a new company. And we had done like a 7-month analysis on what the next company we would start and why, and what the margins were, and how big the space was, and what the team would look like if we did start it. And at some point, I just got stuck, and I was in between two businesses. One was a SaaS company in recruiting and HR that loved championship teams, and the other one was a product company. It was a luggage, and so we were like completely different. And at some point, I thought, well, I want to learn tech. It's good for my kids. I will never be able to give them advice
For
on
sure.
coding or software engineer if I don't learn it myself. So I want to start that company. So on the first floor of our building, there became a space available. I signed a 1-year lease. I went in and put desks in, and we just forced ourselves to start that company.
Wow.
We called it X. And so at some point, I set a trap because I thought, well, I'm paying the money. Crap. I'm frugal. I hate wasting money. Okay, we might as well start this company up. And and you can do the same thing. I think everyone needs 5 mentors. You can set traps for yourself by telling people, I want 5 mentors. Do you know any, who's the best mentors you could find? And eventually, if you focus on it, you'll find them and you'll get it.
I love that story, and I love the fact that you talk about goals, writing them down, taking action, and also having a vision for what you want too. And as you've built these companies, I imagine that you probably have a vision for what the businesses would look like, what kind of people you want to hire. And I'm really curious about your values and how you've integrated those into the business itself. And that probably informs the people you bring in, right? So tell me a little bit about that and how you've used that to build your companies.
So I believe that who you are in your life is who you should be in your business, and how your life philosophies should be the same basically in business.
Mm-hmm.
I love performance, right? I love competition. I love to compete. I love to play basketball. I love to surf. I love to play games. And so in business, we value high performers. We also love giving back. I think true happiness comes from helping others. And so we've added a huge humanitarian component within our business because of what it does to you. When we travel, we have 10 children's centers around the world. We take one humanitarian trip every year. We take our top performing employees and we take them down to Dominican Republic, Panama, Nicaragua. We build these children's centers. The government donates a piece of land, typically an acre.
Wow.
We go down with the capital to build this children's center, which is based on the custom needs of the geographical location, which we're going to. And it rocks everyone's world. They're like, oh my gosh, people live in cardboard huts and we're so spoiled in the United States. And they come home and they're like minimalists. Like, they just want to give everything away. They feel bad for everything they have. But it's so breathtaking for each one of us to understand how blessed we are to live in America. how blessed we are with opportunity, which is probably the number one thing we all have compared to someone that lives in a third world country, is they're just as talented or thankful or gifted, and they want to work hard, but they don't, because of the governments or the economies, they don't have opportunity. So I would say if we surround ourselves with PLUs, we call them people like us, they are three things. They are driven to succeed at any responsibility given. They are genuinely kind people, and they are raw intellectual talents with common sense. We added the common sense because we found out later that raw intellectuals didn't have any sometimes. um, and so the core values are who we are, PLUs, what we're like. There's three things. And then what you just love. Like, do you love to give back? Do you love to perform?
Yeah.
Then do those in your business. And then, you'll attract that type of person, and your business will be built around what you absolutely love.
Those are great values. It sounds like you really put a lot of thought into those. How do you make sure that there's alignment? You know what I mean? Like in the hiring process, does it start there? Does it start with the people you already have? How do you make sure that people are living and breathing what you believe in, and how you want to behave out in with clients, with the community, all that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's harder. It's a lot harder to execute, but it's the same thing, you do in your personal life. You make sure that your first two, three, four, five friends, two, three, four, five employees are incredible, that they're PLUs, because your friends and your employees, they are like DNA strands and they replicate.
Yeah.
And, and
Mm-hmm.
so if you have two bad ones, eventually you're going to have 10 that are,
Yeah.
not what you want. Then you just have checks, like quarterly, annually, to make sure those people are still PLUs, because people change seasons of their life, and to make sure that when they don't fit anymore, they might have fit at some point, that you get them out. And that's super hard, and I'm super bad at it, and I always wait too long, and it's my gut feel, and I've talked about that person for 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times, and I know they're not a good fit, and it still takes me 6 months too late to get rid of them, because it's emotional, and it's hard on everybody to let someone go. But I really believe the best way you could do it is who you start with. People will hire people like them.
Yeah.
And then communication. Like, you have to talk about PLUs, and you have to talk about it all the time. If you've ever been to a church, they talk about the same thing every time. You go to church and it's
Yes, I
like,
do. Yeah.
pray, read your scriptures, talk about Jesus, learn what he did. And you're like, what? Can we start on something else? It's like, why don't you do that first? And then I'm sure, we'll get something else. And so it's that repetition of the same thing every
Mm-hmm.
time. And you have to, as a leader, you're always thinking 10 steps ahead. You have to come back and repeat over and over again. This is what a PLU is. This is what we love. This is who we are. And eventually you do a pretty good job, and people catch on, and they hire people just like themselves. And they take your small vision that you thought was great, and they make it so much better than you ever thought it would be.
Can you give me some examples of like where you might repeat yourself over and over again? Like, do you have team meetings? Is it one-on-ones? Like, how are you making sure that you're repeating that over and over again so it sticks?
Yeah, I think it's the consistency. I think one of the greatest things my wife has pushed in our family's church.
Yeah.
We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We go to church every Sunday. Even if we're on vacation, we go to church. And so it just set a standard that every Sunday we sit down and read some scriptures, and we talk about what Jesus did, right? And it just helps us. It's this consistent pattern. In business, you can do the same, especially in your company. You can say, we're going to do all hands on deck, and we're going to do it the second Wednesday of every month. And we're going to talk about, 3 different things. We're going to talk about what PLU is. We're going to share a story. We're going to recognize a high performer, and we're going to give back to somebody. We love to have a little fund, so that we're not the only ones giving back, that we allow each one of our employees to go find someone in their circle of influence, in their neighborhood or community or family member that needs help, and they have access to capital too. So we're not the only ones. It's not a pharaoh, giving away money. It's we're all doing this collectively, and it makes everyone work harder so we have more to give away. Probably the best example would be your presence. You have to be there. You have to, as a leader, it's really hard to duplicate yourself. It's really hard to clone yourself. And so you have to, as a CEO, founder, C-level executive, you have to own the vision yourself, and you have to talk about it. And so you have to talk about it probably monthly. And so those could be one-on-ones, all hands on deck. meetings or via email, whatever one you decide, but probably a combination of all three.
I just finished this book, and maybe you've read it if you're a reader, The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. And you'll like this story, but there's a story in there, and I think he did a case study with the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich, and they said during the recruiting process where they'd be identifying talent, whether it's their scouting team or through the draft or whatever it may be, they have basically an assessment where they obviously evaluate their talent, but more importantly, they have a checkbox that says spur or not a spur. And no matter what, if they're not a spur in terms of fit and values, no matter how talented they are, they will pass on that person. Have you integrated anything like that during your recruiting hiring process where you just know in the hiring process your gut tells you not a fit and you just pass on them no matter how good they are?
Absolutely. It's been a hard lesson and one we haven't always done. But between Chelsea, who I've known since she was 6 years old, her dad was our head basketball trainer at BYU, Jason Pernue, our COO, we hire everybody. And so I think a critical point is I think one of the founders or one of the main executives that you trust have to approve every single person that comes through. And you know, whether it's a checkbox or not, you talk about it enough, you know what type of person you want through that door. And you just can't get lazy with it, and you can't hand off that responsibility to anybody else.
When you are in the hiring process, do you always make it a point to have the last interview as you're bringing somebody on the team? I don't know how big your team is. So I don't know if that's feasible, but do you make it a point to at least have one of your executive leaders in the room at some point in the process?
Always. Yep. At least last interview, they always have to approve a hire as they come through. And if they mess up, because it's so hard, read a resume, meet them, typically do 2 phone interviews, 2 face-to-face interviews, and by then you're supposed to know. And that's tough. Yeah. Let's date twice after 2 text phone conversations and let's get married. And so there is a percentage of error. It's getting lower, but once you do identify that it's there, you got to move quick.
Do you have any special questions that you're asking in the interview process to tease out that behavior that matches and aligns with your values?
We built software for this. So
you did? Wow.
Yeah, Eddy.com, EDDY.com. We were using a ton of ATS and HRIS softwares, and they were just old technologies, and no one has really done it the right way, it seems like. And so that's part of our SaaS play is we built interview guides inside our product that allows admin, C-level executive, whoever it is, to pre-customize their templates and their questions, or we provide a library for you. And they're much more open-ended questions, but some of them that we've used are, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? We're trying to establish that we want people who've done hard things. We're trying to establish what their projection is. If the hardest thing they've ever done was, break up with their girlfriend last week, and well, what about before that? What company did you work for? You're taking on a really hard project. You stayed up all night. You ever had a loss of your mother, or a sibling, or what? Tell me the time you wanted to quit. And so you're trying to establish what the projection is going forward. Of historically, have they gone through some hard things, or are they pretty new at this thing called life? And so I think that's probably one of our greatest ones that we are trying to figure out. Will this person, because there's a big difference between hard skills and soft skills. So you're trying to identify, do they have the hard skills, marketing, accounting, software engineer, to meet the needs of the company. The soft skills are a lot harder. Negotiation, communication, desire, vision. Like, do they want to do this job? Okay, they do have the skills, but do they want to do it? Do they have the ability to do really hard things and problem solve? Do they just want a list of responsibilities and a checkbox type job, or can they think and push themselves and really want to work here? And that's a lot harder to identify.
Your companies have won some best company to work for awards, it sounds like. What are you offering from a unique perks and benefits standpoint that, besides just having a great culture, but what's keeping them engaged to the point where you're being voted best place to work?
You got to have good managers and you got to have good leaders. I think you got to have people that genuinely love your people. I had a coach. Yeah, here's 2 examples. one coach came up to me and said, I just tore my Achilles tendon.
Hmm.
I was in Russia at the time. I came back in 6 months' time. I worked my tail off.
That's incredible.
Never met him. He walked in and he said, Travis Hansen. Oh yeah. You have 2 kilos. You're probably got 2 extra kilos on your face. Your face is fat. Call back home and fire all your trainers and your doctors back home. And I was like, what the freak? I hate you. Why would you ever say that to me? The year previous to that, I came from Spain to Russia. I was nervous to come to Russia. I was nervous to bring my family to Russia. And the guy walked in, Dusan Ivkovic, uh, Serbian general, great coach, old 70-year-old guy, just had beat team USA team basketball. He just incredible coach, won so many championships. He walks up to me and he gives me a kiss on both cheeks. He says, I've watched you play. I can't believe I get to coach you. I'm so excited. Turn around.
Wow.
See that guy over there? See that center? Lazarus Papadopoulos, the Greek center. I think he's the greatest center outside the NBA. And look at this guy. You get to play with that guy, and you get to play with that guy. I can't wait what team you guys are going to become and how you guys are going to gel, and you're going to lead us. And I'm so thankful to coach you. And, it's just two
Wow.
different philosophies and 2 different ways that, it's like a carrot or a stick,
Yeah.
and I would have ran through the wall for the guy that gave me 2 kisses. And so in our company, we try to treat everyone that walks through that door, whether we hire them or not, whether we partner with them or not, whether we give them money or not, like $1 million. Number one. Number two, we feed them. I think food is a huge thing in our culture. We have on the 3rd floor, full kitchen, chef, and we made sure we hired one of the nicest human beings as our chef, because as they come through, she talks to them like their own mom. Are you gluten intolerable? Are you vegan? Are you going to be late today? I'll save you a plate. And so, out of all our companies, we have 111 employees, and they have chefs. And as they come through, they all think Mindy, we call it Mindy's Cafe, is their mom. And that alone has won us awards. That alone, when people, and you look at the productivity, by 11 o'clock, people are like, crap, I'm hungry. 11:30, it's like, okay, now I'm really hungry. 12 o'clock, it's like, crap, where'd I got to go? Anybody going to go? It's clicky. Who's going to go? It's kind of awkward. It takes 30 minutes to get everyone's butt out of their desk and into the car. You go, you wait in line, you try to pound some food and get back. And this is this mentality of knowing at 12 o'clock every day is going to be an awesome meal. And it's not going to be just, fast food. I mean, Mindy is a home cooked meal from your mom. And I know it's going to be ready on time, and I know it's going to be pretty dang good. And I'm going to come through, I'm going to eat, and I'm going to sit at one of the tables, and hopefully I sit by someone new today, because all the employees are there, and I get to know so many different people. And within 30 minutes, I've eaten, the conversation's been great, and I can go back to my desk. And so we've done analysis that we think, you spend an hour and a half, 2 hours trying to figure out where to work and get home, get back, and you feel sick, and you just pounded a burger and a Coke and trying to get motivated to go back to work, that we get so much more productivity because of Mindy's Cafe. And that ROI, we're still trying to determine what it actually, which I don't know if we'll ever do, but we think it's amazing. Number one.
You'll probably never figure it out, but I'm sure the happiness of your employees is enough for you at this point.
Yeah, and I just base it off of me. I'm really happy every time I go in there and eat, man.
Yeah,
I'm like, this
so
is the greatest. I mean, yesterday we had chaturi plates. I mean, just unbelievable. Like, what do you like? Straight out of Spain. It was just, and then she did homemade scone maple donuts at the end.
Unreal.
Just awesome. So we have Mindy's Cafe. Number one. Number two, we have experiences. We take them on humanitarian trips, and we take them to Lake Powell. We have a houseboat, 3 stories in Lake Powell with paddleboards and wave runners and ski boats, and we put all the food there. Everyone has to just get themselves there, and we take care of everything. Teach them how to surf. We light fireworks. We go on hikes. We play card games, and it's just a time where your phone doesn't work down there. They have to be disconnected. They have to spend time with their teams, and it's been an incredible time for people to bond and do something. And sometimes it's the greatest vacation they've ever had. But besides those things, I think you have to have great benefits. You have to have great communication. You have to have high salaries. People could care less about perks at most point. They just want to get paid a lot of money. And we want to be known as one of the companies, the best in the world, that pays their employees. And I think if you do that, my dad was pretty successful business. He started an insulation company, contractors and new homes, and he sold it after my mom passed away when I was 17 of pancreatic cancer. And I said to him, our whole family got really tight, especially after my mom passed away, and everyone loves their mom. It's just something heart wrenching. And I said, "How were you so successful business?" He said, "You know what? I don't think I was so good. I think most people are just so bad."
Yeah, that's probably true.
And I don't think our culture, honestly, is that great. Mindy is that great, and the kitchen is that great. Lake Powell's, it's great. I love it. Humanitarian trips are great, but everything else, I think, is just table stakes. And if you just do it with love and do it with kindness, everyone else is so bad that I think if you just try a little harder, you'll be just fine.
Oh, that's such a great point, Travis. Well, I love what you're doing. What are you up to? What do you want to promote or point people to find out more about you? Like this audience is made up of HR people, so it sounds like you have software you've built that could actually help this group of people that are probably listening.
Absolutely. We love Eddie, EDDY.com. It's our baby. We want to build world-class software. We need the help. We launched literally 60 days ago. We put 30 companies on in 60 days. We want to help people, admins, HR, CEOs, C-level execs, whoever's involved in the culture and the recruiting and the HR aspects of your company, to do it the right way. We want it to be world-class. We want it to be easy. We want it to be simple. We want to optimize all your recruiting, your onboarding, job posting, everything for your company. And it's just so critical. These businesses start in garages. They start as an idea, and eventually they turn into a company. But in order to be an enduring company that lasts generations, that may have some dire times, but they always come back to being high-performing institutions, you have to find the right people. And we think Eddie is the best at helping you find the right people for your organization. And any help we can get, please, man, go to the website, sign up, use our product. We'd love to help you.
Travis Hansen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed the discussion with you. You're doing some great work, so keep it up.
You're kind. Thanks for having us on, Brian.
Thanks for listening to the Human Resources for Small Business podcast. Subscribe to this podcast and leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to check out our blog at www.zeniumhr.com/blog and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to hear about the latest in HR and leadership. The information on today's episode is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal or customized advice for you or your organization. This podcast is hosted and fully produced by Brandon Laws, that's me, and created and owned by Zenium Resources, Inc. For more information or to contact us, visit www.zeniumhr.com.